Hello and welcome to episode 92 of Sabbath Worship with Ben. Hope you all enjoy it, and as usual we'll have a lesson and a presentation. Hope you all have a blessed Sabbath. This week's memory verse is, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. In him was light, and the light was in him was life, and the life was the light of men." John 1 and 4. John was exiled for his faith to the small, lonely island of Patmos, and they tried to kill him by putting him in a vat of burning oil, but they couldn't kill him. He just wouldn't die, and even though it should have killed anyone, and it was piping hot, so with no more choices, they exiled him to the island of Patmos. Sometimes friends came to visit, but for the most part, John was by himself. So John spent his days there writing the book of John, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John, and Revelation. And he wrote to pass away the time and to record his experiences, because if he didn't, likely no one else would. He was the last person alive to have known Jesus personally, at least of the 12 disciples. So he knew that it was important that he write down what he had learned. So he thought about it and how in the beginning Jesus had come and rescued him and all the other disciples from their worldly lives, and how their lives had been changed so dramatically. Thought about it, and he wrote that in the beginning, because everything had a beginning, and since the world began, God used Jesus to create all things, and Jesus was the beginning and end of the things here, because he made everything. And then he came and saved humanity from it. So he really was all in all to humans. So he was God's messenger to us. So that was it. He was like the mouthpiece of God, as the Bible says, and he is the Word, and it was through him that things were created, and so by him everyone was saved through his message from God. So he was the Word. So in the beginning, John wrote, the Word was the Word, because Jesus is God's Son. He wrote, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And he continued to write and said that this Word was the light, because he was, just as much as he was the Word. He was the light and the life at the same time. He spoke life, and he gave us the light of the salvation. So we should be grateful to him for that. John continued to write, and the ideas are flowing in now. And he wrote all of his books that he had written, John, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John. And later, God would show him Revelation, but for now, he just wrote about his experiences with Jesus and how the Word has influenced his life. That's the lesson for this week. I hope you all enjoyed it. Now I'm going to do my presentation. This presentation is going to be based off of John chapter 9. So it starts off with a man who was walking blind down the street, and Jesus' disciples asked, "Lord, was it his parents' sin or his sin that caused him to be blind?" Because Jews back then believed that if you got sick or if something bad happened to you, it's because you sinned or God was angry at you. But Jesus explained that this isn't true. So what we do isn't what causes us to be sick, in the sense that God causes us. What we do does make us sick. if we don't wash our hands, that is more likely to make us sick than if we don't. But God is not going to punish us for not for sinning by making us sick. So that's not how it works. And Jesus wanted his disciples to understand this. So he told them that it is neither of them sins, but for the glory of God. Sometimes those limitations, no matter how obscure or how weird or how impossible it may seem, it may be for the glory of God. Maybe to improve that person's life in ways you couldn't possibly imagine, or it could be to glorify God. But either way, and most times it's both, but either way, some things are just sin, but even though they're sin, God can still use them for his glory, even though they're things caused by sin. So he went up to this man and asked him if he could, he went up to this man and he made some mud of the ground with his spit, and he rubbed it over the man's eyes, and he asked if the man could see. And so the man said no, so he told the man to go and wash in the pool of Siloam, and when he did, he would be able to see. So the man went and he washed his face and washed that mud off his eyes, and when he washed it off, he could see. So things like that, even though you couldn't possibly have said before that this man being blind was a good thing, in the end, his life was improved in the sense that he got to enjoy something that he never thought he would have had. And it glorified God too, because all his friends, when he went walking around, I thought it was the man, but some thought it just looked like him. But he told them that he was the man born blind. They were so amazed, and so it's a witness of Jesus that he showed his point to these people, even though they didn't realize it, to his disciples. And so things like that can be helpful to God and to the person as well, because now he was a living testimony. But then he got sent to the authorities because they wanted to know how he was made able to see. They called in his parents and asked him, who made him well. He said, Jesus, and they asked how, and he told them. So he called in his parents and asked, how is he able to made see? And they had agreed that anyone who said Jesus was Messiah would be banned from the synagogue. So they told them to ask him because they were afraid. So they called back the man and asked him again. But the man was upset because he told them, I've already told you, but you wouldn't listen. And he told them that this man must be from God, because they were saying he can't if he heals on the Sabbath, because it was the Sabbath day, and that they thought that was breaking their law. But they didn't like the man saying that, so they banned him from the synagogue, and they wouldn't listen to him. So when Jesus caught up with him outside the synagogue, he said, well, make sure you don't sin anymore. Something worse may happen. But if you don't sin, it will be to the glory of God. And you're blind, but you can now see. So the religious leaders who were nearby said, surely you don't mean we were blind too. Jesus says, well, if you were blind, you wouldn't be guilty because you would be ignorant. But since you say you can see, that means you're guilty. By that, Jesus meant if you don't know what you're doing and you're wrong, then even though you're in the wrong, you can't be guilty. But if you do what's wrong, then while knowing it, then it's really sinning in a really bad sense. So let's practice not to do that this week. That's my presentation for this week. I hope you all enjoyed it. And I'll see you for a shorter thing next week as I'm going to be on vacation. And I hope you all have a great summer. Bye.